Rap is out of control.
Rubble Kings.
Right.
Let's tell the people. We told them a little bit in the beginning of the show what it's about, but why don't you, give them some more details?
Well, basically, Rubble Kings is a documentary about New York City gang culture in the late 60s, early 70s, and how that basically planted the seeds for what would become hip-hop culture.
Right.
It's out now. It's available on iTunes, Amazon, pretty much all video-on-demand platforms.
Right.
So, yeah, everybody go out there and support it. So, basically, going back to the soundtrack, my partner in the soundtrack, Little Shalimar, he composed all the music for the film.
Killed it.
And, yeah, he killed it. He killed it. And basically what we did was we took all these original cues and gave them to producers like Preservation and a bunch of others and kind of treated them like samples, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
so they chopped them up and remixed them to make tracks out of them. And Ka killed it. We have a bunch of, other artists that are kind of like getting on board. Mr. Motherfucking Esquire just did a joint, killed it too. And like I said, Run the Jewels. So we're extremely amped about this project, and it's just been an amazing rollout for the film so far. We're about a week and a half in our rollout right now, and the response has just been incredible. We got critics pick in New York Times, LA Times. It's just been a dream come true for sure. And man, here I am now. I'm like,
we have my man Shan Nicholson in the place.
Yes, sir.
Director of Rubble Kings, which is a must-see film. I actually copped it a few days ago and finally had a chance to sit down and watch it, and it was great.
Oh, thank you.
It was one of them joints that it was like Rocky. You go see Rocky, you come out and you're trying to box and everything like that. It was like you watch the movie and I'm like hitting up people like, yo, you heard of Rubble Kings? You gotta go see Rubble Kings.
I thought you was gonna say you tried to start a gang.
Yeah, start flying cut sleeves and shit.
No way he was going with that.
Nah, but it was dope. The way it was put together was really dope. It was and the way it brings together just the city of the Bronx and then the gangs and then, like you said, like going into hip hop, and it was definitely a moment there. Right when It's Just Begun came on, I was just like goosebumps.
Thank you,
from when they were talking about into that, it was just like, that was a moment right there.
That was the perfect song. It's funny because with documentaries like this, we have to. Clearance is always such a big issue of it, and then, hence we had to get a composer to, and we had the old cuts with like Baby Huey, we had Apache, we had all these break beats from the era, and Just Begun was one of those songs where we're like, oh man, we really got to clear, it's like, can we do it without the song? You know what I mean? We had a cut with it out, and I was just like, nah, we got to just go ahead and clear it, man, because it says so much about the film, and it's just begun. Like hip hop has just begun,
right?
And there's a part where we this goes back to my old DJ technique. It's basically there's a part where we edit in where he's like, peace will come, this world will rest, and it comes right after the peace treaty.
Exactly,
so it kind of worked. So.
Exactly, yeah. No, it was just crazy. How long have you actually, been working on it to take it put together?
This has been a labor of love. Does not do it justice. This has been 8 years of my life.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. It's been crazy, but it's been a great run. I learned so much about directing. I've learned so much about producing and putting a project together from the ground up.
Right.
So, I mean, it was kind of trial by fire, but it's finally out there, and I'm beyond the moon right now.
Now, I was gonna say 8 years is a long time to invest.
That's almost as long as the time it takes between him to put his first
album
out and his second album.
Here we go.
But anyway, like you were saying,
I mean, what was so important to you? What made you feel like you had to tell a story?
Well, it's like one of those things where we were just actually talking about this. It's like when you have a project that it's gonna be good for the world, good for know what I mean. It's like it was just one of those things where I just couldn't put it away. I tried to step away from it. But it kept following me. It was like when you have one of those ideas that just haunts you every night and every day, you just have to work.
DJ Eclipse.
And that's how it was, man. It was a passion. It was definitely like a passion. I mean,
what was the first step to making this documentary? Like, what was the first link that you said, okay, I can do this. I have this in pocket, and then I think I can make this work.
Right. Well, it started off as an idea for a script.
Okay.
It's funny because I wanted to do a script for the Ghetto Brothers. Basically, the story centers around this one group called the Ghetto Brothers.
Right.
And If any all the records diggers out there, they know they're also they're a group, a musical group as well. So I was a big fan of their music before. It was like if you found their record, it was like finding the Willy Wonka ticket.
Holy grail.
It was the holy grail of digging right there. So to find the backstory out about them in the peace treaty and all that stuff, I was like, wow, this would be an incredible movie. I mean, scripted movie, a narrative movie.
Right.
And so when I started doing research, it was like one of those eureka moments when I started to find footage of them, and footage of the treaty and footage of. So I started like putting a timeline together of their story.
Right.
And then I got really lucky. We got in touch with Jeff Chang, and he put us in contact with one of the guys. And the ball just started rolling from there. So subsequently afterwards, when we finished the documentary, I actually wrote the script to the film.
Okay.
So hopefully that's next. Fingers crossed. It's a big jump, but we'll see.
Right. Yeah. And you got a lot of nice names attached to the documentary. John Leguizamo narrated it.
Yeah, he was amazing. He was incredible to work with. It's funny. He was in London while we were recording him, and we were piping him through. And we were showing him the clips before and after where the narration was going. And he was like, "Oh shit, the Savage Skulls! Like, my uncle was a Savage Skull." You know what I mean? Like he automatically identified with,
of course,
with that's old New York. And he's just like, "Man, I remember this, I remember that," and he was just. Cracking jokes. He was the best, man. Shout out to John Leguizamo.
That's an interesting point too, because I actually have to go back and watch it because I found myself losing track of the story and just watching the visuals.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I got to rewind it back to hear what he just said. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we'll go back. Like, you need to watch it once just to see the footage, and then go back again just to listen to the whole storyline.
It's pretty incredible, the footage that we it's funny. I mean, a lot of these film crews that were shooting back then. I mean, the footage that we have is from Europe, most of it. Like, it's from Germany, it's from Paris, it's from Sweden. And, like, because American crews were not, film crews were not going to the South Bronx. They were just like, are you crazy? I'm not going out there to shoot these gangs, you know what I mean?
Right.
But leave it to the French. They're like, Sacre bleu, let's go. It's crazy. They were just like, they were like, whatever, man. So, yeah, man, we got really, really lucky. I want to give a shout out to King Clast, because he was a linchpin in discovering all this footage. He has this incredible website called Classic New York City Street Gangs of the 60s and 70s. And he just like we connected right away, and he opened up his archive. He has a forum basically where a lot of these old gang members are now friends, guys that were like, mortal enemies back in the days now, because they're all survivors, what I'm saying? Like they all went through wars together, and we went to this gang reunion in Brooklyn where we got to meet a lot of the cast members, and it was like X, Dirty Dozen, hanging out with Reapers, and you shot my cousin, but it's all good now. You know what I mean? It's like it's crazy, but it was just a different time, and so they were really, one thing I gotta say is that they were all open to talking about the past, but they all wanted to make sure that people understood that as a survival story and that they're all doing better.
Yeah, that was my question, actually. I was going to ask him how difficult was it to find people to want to open up and talk about the experiences, and did you get any pushback from anybody saying that, they rather keep it in the past?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a trust thing, you know what I mean? Like, we definitely, I mean, I didn't just come in, and that was the one thing that I wanted to make sure is like, the film explores the conditions that created these gangs.
Absolutely.
And it's not about, these kids were just inherently violent and they just wanted to cause trouble for no reason. I mean, the South Bronx was the worst district in the country at the time. The Brooklyn, everywhere. There was so many districts that were just so, burnt down, and there was no hope for any of these kids. And so, they understood that point of view. They didn't really necessarily just want to focus in on the violence, where I feel like a lot of other filmmakers would have made it, sensationalized it or whatever. But I do have this one funny story. Is like, we interviewed Blackie from the Savage Skulls, and the Savage Skulls, if you guys don't know, were like the most notorious gang in the South Bronx. They were like, it was like Black Spades, Savage Skulls, and Savage Nomads were pretty much the biggest gangs in the Bronx, and Ghetto Brothers as well. And Blackie was the supreme president he started the Savage Skulls. And everybody else that we interviewed that talked about the Savage Skulls, they were like, yo, Blackie used to walk down the street and everybody would just run for the hills. And it was like, he walked around with 2 German Shepherds, and like everybody was just like, whoa, I got to meet this Blackie dude, you know what I mean? And then like we got him, and he was just like, yeah, I was like, so, Blackie, man, everybody tells me that the Savage Skulls were the most notorious, gang in the South Bronx. And he was like, we played handball and we drank, kind of stayed to ourselves. And I was like, oh boy. I was like, we're not going to get much information out of this dude. But, everybody was just so gracious and so, amazing. Like the Skulls came out too. We had a screening in the South Bronx a couple nights ago, actually, at the Bronx Documentary Center. And they all rolled up. There was like 30 or 40 Savage Skulls, and they're all motorcycle clubs now.
Right.
And so they all showed up and showed so much love, and Blackie had so many incredible things to say to the crowd out there. And again, they're just giving back.
Right.
They've survived, and they have these incredible stories that they want to share with everybody. And I was just blessed. I was lucky enough to be that person, that conduit to tell their story.
Right. Rubble Kings is what we're talking about. It is out there right now. Amazon, iTunes, Google it. Rubble Kings is definitely dope and worth checking out.